Okay, so what we'll be following is a long, drawn-out series of videos concerning replacing essentially the fuel pump on a 96 Tahoe. Originally, as you will discover, I dropped the tank just to seal up the fuel tank. I wasn't sure why it was leaking, but it's leaked ever since I put it in 2016. I believe I got tired of it. I'm doing this kind of summary just a lot of stuff happened. All these videos are raw, uncut. You get to see the journey I go through. I'm not an auto mechanic by trade. I am, however, an aircraft mechanic by trade, so it's a little easier for me to discover the solutions to things that I run into, even though I'm not a licensed auto mechanic. Just a few quick things. There's a couple of videos out there. I forget whose they are on YouTube, but they're very good about troubleshooting the fuel system if it doesn't run. Just a couple of quick things. These trucks, if you turn the key, when you first turn the key in the ignition, you should hear the electric fuel pump run for, I think it's 5 seconds after having tested it. So when you turn the key, you should hear a little meep first. So if you come out one day and you don't hear anything, it doesn't start, turn the key off and pay attention. Turn the key, turn the radio off, all that first, and listen for that. If you don't hear that, that means the fuel pump isn't working on the fuel relay. If you turn it over and you get oil pressure and then it starts, and it's telling you that fuel pump relay has failed. There's more information on that buried somewhere in these long, drawn-out videos. This took a lot longer than I expected. Had a lot of issues that I wasn't expecting, but you can learn from my journey. Like I say, mistakes, but there are some mistakes in there too. Just a couple of quick things. Locations, your fuse box. Here's your fuel pump relay. By this terminal in this corner is hot all the time with the key off. You can take that and jump a little wire to the terminal over there. These two terminals back here control the solenoid in the relay, which connects 12 volts from there to there. Once you do that, if you have 12 volts here, that wire is connected to the power wire on the harness for your fuel pump, so you don't have to keep turning the key to get that quick little 5 seconds. That'll bypass that and get you 12 volts so you can test the pump or whatever else you want to do, and you'll see why that's important when you get into there. Somewhere by the distributor is the main fuel pump power. There's an oil pressure switch. Once you build what are you saying, 10 pounds of oil pressure, that switch closes, give you 12 pounds, gives you 12 volts to your fuel pump, so that as long as your engine is running and producing oil pressure, your fuel pump is also running as 12 volts. You shut the engine off, the ignition, your oil pressure drops, that switch will turn off the voltage to your fuel pump so it's not hot all the time. Anything else? The bottom line is, after long and drawn out, let's see if we can hear this thing.
Oh, Smith.
Not really. Didn't really hear it this time. But lo and behold, my gas gauge is actually working pretty good right now. I put a new connector like you're supposed to, and it worked out pretty good so far. So if you can make it through the entire series of videos, I don't know how many there are at this point, because I can only put, I think, 20 minutes per video so far on YouTube. I'm sure there's a way to get around that. You will see how to go from the beginning to the end, and what to do when things don't quite go right. But I think there's more value in the failures and the things that go wrong and figuring out how to fix those than if you just have a smooth operation. Although smooth operations are nice, in the real world a lot of time that doesn't happen. So anyway, if you can watch them, good luck. Maybe you can learn something. I hope it helps you out. Enjoy. just for fun. Here's what the tank looks like. This I already cleaned out. I think I showed a picture of that. Then I have to prime and paint that. But it's all nasty, so it's getting the treatment. I'll fill it full of water and see if it leaks. Okay. Alright, here's my test rig. I'm going to fill this thing full of water and see where it is leaking. If it's that little hole, well, that's beauty because I can fix that pretty easy. So I'm going to go ahead and put 30 gallons in it and we'll see what happens. Alright, here we go. There, confirmed. There's where it's leaking. As I suspected. So the seal didn't work. Or the seal ring is no good. So I got another seal ring and I got red RTV. I'm going to seal the heck out of that. I might as well pop that off of there and see what the deal is. Maybe I just didn't get the gasket set in there or something, but I thought it leaked like this before. So we shall see. I'm going to knock that off of there and see if I can tell if the little quad ring, I think it's a quad ring, or the O-ring is no good. Alright, well I knocked this off. I'm going to pretend. Okay, well it's not in the right place, but that goes over there. Yeah, if you got a brass punch it's better. No sparks and it's soft. I was trying to tap on these, didn't work real well. Ended up having to tap on this part which was sticking out over here, so you might see that once you pop it loose. As you can tell, this is a piece of crap. I should never put it on the last time. But see, this isn't that old. And it's nice and sunny out, so I'm gonna be putting this out to dry in the sun. But here's the quad. They call it a quad ring because it's square. And you can see it's not old. It's in good shape. But it was leaking right up in here. It should be sealing. So what I'm gonna end up doing is clean all this up as much as I can and sealing it with red RTV, which is fuel proof. And letting that cure for a while. And then fill it up again and see what happens. As soon as you saw, as soon as the fuel gets to that level, it starts leaking out. And if you fill it all the way to where it stops, it fills up to about, that. Let's see the pipe comes up a little bit, so it's about right in there or something. And all that fuel leaks out. So I used to hit and run, splash and dash. I was going to take a trip. We would get ready to go, fill it up, and hit the road with it draining out the bottom. And I forget how many miles it took till it got down that far. It was stupid. But I'm taking care of that now. Anyway, alright, so I'm going to dump this out of here, which will clean the tank out good and flush it out. Put this thing in the sun, clean that up real good, and I'll come back and show you that. Well, I expect to be doing this outside in the sun, but had a storm come up now. I'm tucked away inside the shop here. So my buddy Tom says, hey, why don't you just seal the quad ring with some gasket sealer instead of just RTVing the heck out of this thing. And I said, you know what, I can't think of a single reason why not to do that. Here's where the quad ring goes. Stretches out across that and it has to fit down in there nice. See, it's not quite, but it stretches out across here, so it'll go in the right place. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use some Permatex number 2, which is sticky, sticky, sticky. It never hardens. Okay, it's still sticky, sticky up there. I got my new lock ring. Nice and pretty. It's got nice big dimples on it compared to the old one. which is pretty much toast. So I think that's my reasoning for why it leaked. It just didn't push it in. So here's the, and we're gonna Permatex this thing up here, both the bottom and the top of it, where the seal gun to the fuel pump. Tighten it up, and that should do it. We'll see what happens. Okay, hopefully I'm not screwing this whole thing up. I realize now there's a little ridge. Can't see it because I gooped it. There's a little ridge that sticks up in this groove all the way around here, which puts that little groove in the ring. See that little groove not in the ring? So looking at this old one, you can see the groove. Then you see the groove come off it. So apparently what I did, simply not get the quad ring in the right place. And there's the groove again. With my finger. So this quad ring has to stretch out around, oops, sorry, got to stretch out around here. If it's not stretched all the way around it when you put the pump in, then the pump's going to push on the quad ring, but it's not in the groove. And if it didn't go in the groove here, and there's where my fuel was leaking. That is where it was leaking. So I'm going to try. Sometimes you shoot yourself in the foot by trying to do a better job of it than they originally had at the factory, because they spent a lot of money to develop this thing. And with that little ridge in there, provided this goes in the right place, it'll seal up. Now, when I was trying to put it on before, I got to stretch it out around there, and it was sticking a little bit like it's supposed to. But if it didn't go around there, it's hard to tell because it doesn't fit, stretch out all the way on this thing. I gooped this up too. So the real answer seems to be, if you put a new pump in with a new ring, if you install it correctly, you probably won't have that leaky problem. But since I've committed to this already, and I did get a new ring, that probably had something to do with it, but maybe not completely, because if it didn't seal up in there. So I don't have the tripod. This is now my camera because my battery died and it's pouring outside. I can't go get another battery at the moment. So I'm going to try to put it in there and just tell you about it. So I told you about it. The quad ring has to stay all the way around the outside of this flange here. This is going to just shove down on in there. This is spring loaded, so when you put it in, you got to make sure this little slot gets lined up with that little blivet right there. I've marked them both on the tank and on top so I can line them up. And then you push this whole thing in. It goes in, you have to kind of fish it through. And then line it up, and then you got to push it down from the top. You'll actually push the pump down like that. Down like that. And then put that ring on there and tap it around. So I should be able to tell that it's seated properly, but if I didn't the last time, I'm not sure. So we'll see. Alright, and bye. Okay, so a couple of things. First, to remind you, this stuff is really, really, really sticky. If you're going to try that, you get that ring stretched out around the outside of that thing. And this ring goes in with the humpies up, because we're going to push against the middle thing. And the ring has to go on before you start pushing on that thing. So it goes on there, and then you push it on down, and now we'll see what happens. I'm fighting. This is about the 4th time I put it in, because it's sticky, so every time I have to pops back up, the quad ring comes off. I have to push it back down. I was taking the whole thing out. This time I just pushed it on, Pushed it down in there. Hopefully it's going to go in. We'll see what happens. Oh, so managed to get it in there. I started by tapping in this direction on this one, but that wouldn't go very far, so I ended up putting it vertically like that. And let's try this again. Camera and phone freaked out last time I did this. And tapped on it like that, all the way around. That one, and I did this one, and I did that one, and lo and behold, very carefully that one so you don't hit these, and it went all the way around. I looked around it when I was putting it in. Looks like I've got it in there. Looks like the seal's where it belongs, and I do have goop in there, and of course, like I said, this stuff is really sticky. It gets all over you. So theoretically that should be it. Should be sealed up. I do not think I'm going to fill it full of water and check it. It's really not that big a deal getting it out of there. If I have to pull it again, I simply will start out by putting it on ramps. And it'll come, there's plenty of room to do it that way. Alright, so next is going to be to clean this up with a wire wheel. Prime and paint that. Clean out a little more rust on there. Slap it up under there, slap the tank in it, put it back together, get this beast back on the roof. I'll follow up on that. Now the fuel filter's changed. I'm going to dump probably 10 gallons in here. Hopefully I'm not going to get hit by lightning. Typical Florida afternoon in the summertime. This stuff's all coming in threatening. But then we're going to be firing this thing up and see what happens. Hopefully it'll fire right up. Okay, got roughly 10 gallons in. There's no reason to think this thing won't run. Just a matter of whether it's going to leak or not. So first thing we do is turn the key. I got the charger on 10 amps just to give it a little boost since it's been sitting a while, and you should be able to hear the fuel pump for a little while here. Except that does not look good. Fuel gauge is pegged to the high side. Well, there we go. Put it in. Forgot I had it in neutral. I'm not hearing. That connector's not on. I'm not hearing the fuel pump. Oh dear. And no indication on the. Bummer. I'm gonna have to pull the back of that, see if I can get up in there somehow. That connector, I pushed that connector on. We got pushed off. Didn't get put on right. Alright, we're back. So it's the day after a disappointing attempt to start this thing. And if you can see up in there, I can't get to that connector, and I have a feeling that I'm not going to be able to get to that connector. I'm going to poke my head up underneath here and see, but I'm pretty sure what's going to end up happening is that I'm going to have to drop this tank a bit. Oh boy. I think I'm going to straighten this out too. I got a feeling, now that everything's back up in place, cleaning the drive shaft is going to be a pain in the butt, and yeah, there's no room to get up in there. So we're going to loosen these clamps up a bit, see if we can drop this tank. Well, you know what, sometimes these videos, the best thing as a learning experience is when things go wrong. That's why I don't edit them
I take them as we go. If I screw up, you get to see how I get myself out of it. This just happens to be the second one in a row where something's gone wrong. Haven't fixed the other one yet, but this one hopefully won't be too bad. And we'll grab some tools and get to it. Alright, so I had to drop the back strap and loosen up the clamps on the back tubes to push it down. You see back there, I got a hammer twisting it and push it out of there, and I was able to reach in behind it. When I was trying to pull this connector out of here, I had a piece of it come off. It's the lock dealy, which goes up in here underneath. So that's the lock. When you take this off, you got to push this down. So I'm wondering if I gotta take that lock out first, put the connector in, then push the lock in. So I'm gonna pop that back out of there. Do that by pushing down on it. Let's give that a shot. I'm gonna go in there and push that on and see if I can get the pump to kick in, and then push that lock up in behind it. Let's try that. So this is one of those parts. I push it in, pull it out, push in, pull it out. I don't really know what's going on. I get out here with a voltmeter, circuit tester. I'm testing these. I got no voltage. Huh. I see that right there. Monkey butt. I better turn the ignition off and see what the heck that is. I could have very well just found it. So I unwrapped some duct tape, which is probably not a good sign, and I find this. Looks like somebody spliced in a new connector. I can't imagine that's factory, but it is done with heat shrink. They did a pretty good job, I guess, but except the fact that that one's no good, no mo. So I'm gonna get some butt splices, splice that one, and then I'm gonna pull on the rest of them and see if they come apart. Oh, that would have been, talk about hard to find. Had I been driving down the road and this thing quit, I would have think it was a fuel pump and would have had to try to do it wherever I was. Or even here, I just did this to get a hold of that leak, not even to fix a fuel pump issue. Alright, well, that just goes to show you, you never know what you're going to find. It's always an adventure. Let's see what I can find in there now. Okay, splice that sucker, nice little butt splice. That doesn't seem to be holding alright. I'm going to tape that up. I now have 12 volts on that third one over, which is the one that was pulled out. So, tape it up, plug it in, see what happens. Although I'm pretty sure I know what's going to happen. Thank goodness. Alright. Electrical tape. We're going to plug it back in, which is not easy, but... And then I'm going to point the camera right there and turn the ignition key and see if we hear that little hum. Alright, so you're probably not going to see anything, but let's see if you can hear anything. I don't know, I didn't hear anything. You hear anything? Let's see. Try it again up here. Alright, fuel pump assembly's out, hooked up to the connector. Should get 3 seconds of running time. Nothing. Nada. Nilch. Zilcho. So, I'm going to go ahead and bypass the relay and do an absolute test here. Okay, shout out to Advanced Auto Parts. They did indeed honor my warranty. Got a brand new pump. And they always send you this new harness. I was thinking, well, I just rewired mine. I really don't need it. But I'm looking at these wires. These wires are much beefier than these wires. So I'm going to plug this thing in, see if it works, but I'm going to go ahead and put that new harness on there because bigger wires are better. Just lay that right there. Turn the key for a second. I should go for about 3 seconds. There we go. Alright. Had they not send me a harness, I'd be good to go, put it back in, but I want to go ahead and put the new harness on and do that same thing, make sure it's all hunky-dory. Okay, we're back. Alright, we got the new harness wired in there. I got it wrapped in the shielding that came with it. You want to make sure when you put those on you stagger the splices so you don't end up with a big fat thing like that. And I went ahead and used some red RTV, seal up all the ends and sealed up the whole little section that the splices are in. Just gonna double check. And now that I got the new harness on, this thing runs, and I'm gonna be checking it at every step as I go now because I'm paranoid. There we go. Confirmation that that runs. Go install it. Just a quick little note before we get started on this, putting the new one in. The reason I started all this nonsense was to, you remember, was to seal this tank up. And if you'll notice, this is the old gasket. I did indeed get it in the right place when I did it the last time. So I glued that sucker in. The sealer kind of stays gooey. I got the new gasket. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put sealer underneath it and on top of it and make sure it is stretched like it is right there around this little seam. There's a little flange there, and as a reminder, there's also a little ridge in the bottom of that groove, which is what actually seals up that ring. So when that thing is in there, that little ring pushes up into that seal and seals it up. And I'm going to go ahead and put my RTV number 2 in there and seal that all up. You have to, the new pump assembly, if you buy the whole new assembly, it comes with a little arm taped off to the side. This is how it goes in. The little angle piece pushes into that hole, and it just pushes down into these little clips right there. So now you have empty, full. Hopefully we're going to get full. As you can see, the design of this tank, the reason I was trying to do this, because I only get 20 gallons or whatever, and you can see how high the rest of this tank is, and I couldn't use any of that. When it got to here, it started draining out of the thing and running down the side. So I want all my fuel capacity, however many gallons that is. I'm assuming it's like 5 gallons, because this thing should go all the way to the top of the filler there. Anywho, alright, I'm going to stick some glue in there, and I think I'm going to set the tripod up, and we'll see how this whole thing goes together. Okay, here we go. Hopefully that'll stay put. I've got my lock ring, which I put in new last time, so it's fine. I'm going to seal this stuff up with some Permatex number 2. You know what? I think the easier way to do this, simply apply it to the quad ring itself. Sometimes you gotta be careful with sealers on gaskets because they make them slippery, and if you torque them too much, it'll push right out of the, squeeze right out of where it's going. This stuff is really, really sticky though. And this is, was proven that works the last time. So since it was proven that it worked the last time, I'm going to go ahead and just assume it's going to work this time. It can only get tightened down by the amount that that lock ring tightens down, which I will admit is pretty tight. Shouldn't really have to put this stuff on here, but of course the reason I was doing this whole thing was to do this with the old gasket. Now putting a new gasket on it, I don't want to take any chances. So that goes in there. Squirt that out a little bit, and we don't have to worry about that hardening up because it really doesn't harden up. Now that my hands are really nasty, make sure that sucker is pushed all the way around that flange, nice and flat. As long as I don't push sideways on that thing, that should stay just like that. Yeah, nice. Wearing gloves might be good. I'm not smart enough for that. So, the new assembly, you have to stick that through there, make sure that's going to work. Yep. That goes in there, that goes in there, that drops down in there. Now this goes in this direction because these have to come out the side here. Now, say, oh, don't fit. This is the way this works. Made in China. This pushes down. Make sure it's clear. This pushes down on some springs. And this has to go so that it starts. Wow, it's going to give us a little trouble. Alright, so I want that all nasty. I got to write on the date. I'm going to put the date and the mileage on that a little bit. Alright, so I heard it clicking around in there. Now it's started. Now we have to lock that in there. So, using a brass punch that I made in aviation school a long time ago, I'll tap this thing around. Brass so it doesn't spark. Let's see where it needs to go. giving me a hard time. And they're all started in there. What did I do the last time? I'm pretty sure this is the second one I did last time. And we pretty much that's pretty much it. And that is that. It's come to the end. There's a little gap in there, but it's reached the end there, so it's not going to turn anymore. These I just bend down a little bit. Those are used when you're trying to take it back off. That's it. That one's ready. Just got to remember I'll pull those off when I put the fuel hoses on it. Now for the fun part. Sliding this thing back up in there. As soon as we get it up in there in place and we get that plug on it, and we're going to fire it up again, make sure it works every step. Don't forget that up here you got a line that pops on there. You just squeeze those little dealies to get it off. So you just snap it, snap it right back on. That's got to reach around. This one you got the harness to go in there, the two fuel hoses which will get into the wheel well. Then we got the two feeder lines. That's a vent. That's the filler tube, which as we get it up in there we'll start popping those on there. And we'll just do it a little here, a little there. Alright, then we're going to slide that sucker back up in there. Hopefully this is going to be it. Okay, it's all done except the final tightening. I got about 1 inch left to go on the straps. Gas gauge is reading empty. Huh. Well, let me go put the charger on start. Got about 3 gallons in there. See if it'll got enough gas to. That sucker shocked me because I'm standing out here in the mud, I guess. What the heck? Pieces of my seat are coming out. I think I need some seats. Well, I tried to replace them, but the junkyard didn't do me any good. That happens. Holy schmoly. It's alive! Alrighty then. Haven't heard that in a long time. Alright. I'll do a final wind-up video here once I get this thing fantastic. What is today? September 16th. Oh, look at this. Is that a problem? Of course there's a problem. Of course there is. So much fun. So this nightmare continues. So what do I got? I have fuel dumping out of here. And I started up and got under here. I had a mist spraying out of there, so I don't know if it's this rubber hose or the metal line underneath it. Why on earth would that all of a sudden start leaking? This metal line here belongs up in this little clamp thing. So I'm gonna have to drop the back clamp, back strap, pry this thing over, and see if I can loosen up the front strap a little, see if I can push this thing over without taking everything down. If I can, I'm gonna just go jump in the swamp or something. I'm going crazy. I so wanted to drive this tonight. This is unbelievable. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and it's not dark yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop that back strap and see if I can figure this out. Maybe I can pull this off. Maybe it's just that rubber hose and I can somehow manage to change it. Alright. This is too much. Well, at least my fuel filter's not leaking. And it runs. Oh, caramba. Maybe continued. Well, I'm gonna be elated if this all it was. All I did was get up in there, put these lines back in their thing, and move this clamp down. Like whoever the last idiot was, put that clamp up too high. And I'm not sure it was even clamping on the pipe. I thought I had some corrosion on this pipe up here. All I did was move that clamp, tighten it up, and I don't appear to have a leak anymore. I gotta push this thing back up in place and clamp it up and see what happens. Man, I hope that's all it was. Some idiot just put the clamps in the wrong place. The other one's up there pretty high too, but I guess it's high enough. The clamp's on it enough. God, I hope that's it. I'm tired of this. I want to get this back on the road. Wow. Alright, I think I'm going to move these things around and try to push this up there with it running just to see if anything changes. May get a bath. I already laid my shoulder into that wet gasoline soaked carpet. It's burning pretty good. Well, I'm going to let it run. Gotta get this tank pushed up in there. Let's see what happens.